Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Ben, this is Books with Bengus Khan, and today I'm coming to you with my May reading wrap-up, and it is one of those truly memorable months of reading in the life, with some extremely, overwhelmingly positive reading experiences, mixed in with a couple absolute clunkers. So, not much in the middle here from this month, which made it a really fun one for me, just and thinking about it and reflecting. So, I have a lot that I'm going to be gushing about or criticizing here, but I want to switch up the format of these. Usually I go in order of when I read the books in the month, and here I want to start with the best, most positive reads for the month, and then kind of make my way slowly towards the ones that didn't work for me towards the end. So we'll see how this goes. I wanted to try out something new. And so that brings me to the first read, which is A Parade of Horribles by Matt Dinniman, the new release in Dungeon Crawler Carl. That's book 8 out of a planned 10. And I was ready the second that audiobook released to jump in, and man, was it a delight. Like, I was just so content, so joyous for those few days of listening to this next chapter in the tale. And I'd done a bunch of rereading of all the DCC books over the last couple years, and just to get new plot developments, and everything feels so tense and high stakes because I don't know what's going to happen and who's safe and who's not. It was a treat, and new jokes that just had me laughing out loud, but also just extraordinarily serious moments and high-stakes emotional things going on left and right mixed in. And so I had an awesome time listening to that the first time. I then did a couple of really long bus trips early in the morning, and so I threw it on kind of during the bus as a reread, and it worked perfectly because I was in and out of napping. I wasn't worried about missing stuff. And so I did kind of half listen to it again, and that just solidified my love for this even more. It is a very strange entry in the series. We're smack dab in the middle of just two of the biggest events that could happen in the dungeon, with the faction wars from This Inevitable Ruin, the previous book, and with the Ascendancy games coming up in the next book. And this just... It feels like a transitional book, but man, did Dinniman just make the most out of that, with zany sequence after zany sequence, and moving the series along in major ways with the lore and the overarching plot going on outside the dungeon and inside. And yeah, I loved it. It's not a perfect read, as most of these DCC books were not truly like perfect in every way. Like, they maybe had a little sequence here or there, or a little storyline, or a setting that didn't fully work for me. But I almost feel like I love this series even more with those little imperfections. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect for me in every way to just adore them. And even when there were kind of races going on in this that I couldn't perfectly visualize what was going on, like, I was still engaged, and there's fun, zany stuff happening every moment, whether it's the dialogue or just the craziest moments and events that you could possibly imagine. And so, this is likely going to be somewhere towards the middle of my series rankings, but we're at a point where I think Dinniman has such command of the cast of characters, their voices, the plotting overall, and mixing things in, where like these later books are just so high impact compared to a bunch of the earlier ones. So it's not going to probably be among my top favorites in the series, but it'll be close. And great solid entry that I can't wait to reread in print now that I have this print edition, and catch all of the little tiny details and things that I maybe missed doing it by audio, and just gobbling it up that way. But man, Jeff Hayes also, what an incredible audio experience that is for this whole series. But it's just getting better and better on the audio front. There is a karaoke scene in this book, and with the audio engineering too, we get a little bit of the music. I don't even want to spoil what song they're singing, but there's just this incredibly engaging scene that if you experience by audio, it's a one-of-a-kind thing. So if you have not read DCC yet, I would highly encourage you to give it a try and be patient with it, because what it becomes by the 5th book is just something so grand in scope and emotionally hard-hitting that you wouldn't necessarily just think when you're first reading those first few books. And so yeah, be patient with it. And if you have read it all, like, you got a great one to look forward to. And if you once you read A Parade of Horribles, check out the spoiler chat that I just had on my channel a few days ago with the wonderful Derry and David from Four Corners of the Page, where we get into all the nitty-gritty details and into the weeds with what was going on in this book, and have a lot of kind of lore character conversations, and go over some of our favorite moments. So check out that live chat on my channel if you've read this one. And yeah, easy 5 stars, tremendous, did it twice, and can't wait to do it again. Parade of Horribles, huge hit. I mean, it's not every day that your few top favorite series have a new release. And I got, within basically a week, a new DCC release and a new release in the Dresden Files. I don't have a physical copy of Outlaw, but this kind of briefcases was reminding me of it, because this is the second one in Butcher's kind of novella sequence that he's been doing, that he started with The Law. And I think similar to some of the things he was doing in briefcases, but this is kind of more extended version, and these are working for me better than his short stories really ever did with Harry. And so this is a great follow-up to The Law, and it's even meatier. It's, I think, more than double the length. You really have time to sink into this particular plot, and I am loving this return to kind of more lower stakes individual case file Dresden that takes it back to the feel of the first couple books before the whole scope of the plotting and everything expanded in more recent books. But Butcher is just an immensely better writer at this point, and so these are just tight stories with a lot of heart, a lot of fun, and new side characters getting introduced that are a lot of fun, and also side characters that kind of came along in the last couple books, and maybe even just 12 months feature prominently here. And so it is just a treat for big series fans, and I think Butcher is knocking it out of the park with these novellas. And this one, on top of being a fun Dresden story, like, it had a deep kind of theme and message to it. It's this fresh feeling plot for Dresden where he's helped younger kids and teenagers try to find redemption and get on a better path in life, but this one is around helping more of like a middle-aged person who is an entrenched criminal who wants to make a life change, and that was just a new kind of theme for Dresden. I thought it had a lot of wisdom to teach this kind of short novella, on top of just being a really engaging story. So huge hit for me, and once again, like, within a week, getting to read 2 new entries from 2 favorite series, like that was just such a treat for me. And yeah, both were huge hits. And if that wasn't enough, I got to continue in one of my ongoing series that is starting to become a major all-time favorite, and that is the Ostenard Saga by Tad Williams. I just finished this morning Brothers of the Wind, which is, you might hear it called a novella, but this thing, close to 300 pages in paperback. It's more than double the word count of kind of the maximum novella size. So this is just a normal sized novel, and it's just nothing compared to the giant chunkers of the kind of present day books in the series. And I'm looking forward today. So in the past now, I'll be going to Philip Chase's channel to have our next kind of big book club discussion. Can't wait to chat about this, which you can go over and see on Philip Chase's channel if you've read this book and want to go into the weeds on spoiler stuff. But this takes us back a few thousand years, I think, from the present day of where we were in, like, Empire of Grass. And we go back and spend time with 2 Scythi brothers, Imaluki and Hakatri, Scythi royalty. And I don't want to give away too much. I think it's probably best to encounter this in publication order, and it ties in, I think, with the plot of the present day Last King of Ostenard books really well, based on how Empire of Grass ended, and you get a lot more insight into some things that were going on even with the original Memory Star and Thorn trilogy. And I just love the slow unfolding that happens over the course of all these books, where everything, you're learning more and more about the history, the lore of the different races, and how everything is tying together in these different conflicts and affecting the present. And this is just a really engaging book, and it is told from this new character perspective that I found to be bit mournful, a bit introspective, maybe not terribly self-aware. It was this Tanukadaya, like changeling character who is the servant of the Sithi Lord Hakatri, and just a really interesting storytelling style that's so different from everything else in the series. So it's kind of a breath of fresh air, and I took my time with it. It's not the fastest paced book, but it more events actually, like events occur more quickly than I was even expecting them to, and things were going in directions that just completely unpredictable and always felt extremely high stakes and emotional. All right, now for something very different. I read a nonfiction book for the first time in a while. Like, I consume a lot of nonfiction content on YouTube and random articles and stuff, but I haven't read a real like full nonfiction book in a while. I've been just fully in the SFF kind of novel reading mode for a very long time. But I have been getting more and more interested in kind of tackling my health and fitness and getting on a healthier track like I was in my younger years. And so I was searching up lots of YouTube videos and going to different podcasts, and I discovered a Dr. Jason Fung who was on a lot of podcasts and talking about obesity and fat loss, and that led me to picking up his book, The Obesity Code. I ended up speeding through that, picked it up on Libby, which my library had, and then that was from about 10 years ago, and I really liked it, and so I then got his more recent book, The Hunger Code, which hits on a lot of similar things, but dives deeper into certain areas and talks about updated research and science. So this is just a stand-in for The Obesity Code, which is what I read, which is quite a popular book in the health sphere, it seems. It's been widely read, and just I like his style. It moves very fast. He gets into the scientific details, but not too heavyweight. For someone who's a layperson with human biology and chemistry, like it's all very understandable. He injects a lot of personal voice into it as well, so it's not like a dry read. The sections are really well organized. Things move along, and I think his advice, and I'll try to link in the description, like one of the kind of podcast videos that I watched that he went on, where he gets into a lot of the same stuff that's in the book. But I think there's a lot of wisdom in here in terms of what's causing people to be overweight and unhealthy. And I think I was falling prey to this, of eating just very frequently from kind of the moment I woke up to snacking in the evening, and lots of meals and snacks in between, and a lot of kind of ultra processed foods and a lot of excess sugar and unnecessary carbs, and so I've been trying to do some time restricted feeding the last couple months, and not eat after an early dinner, and so cut out night snacking, and not eat it second I get up, and wait till I really feel hungry to eat, and maybe just have a kind of 8-hour window of the day where I'm eating. And man, I've started to feel more energy, losing weight, and on top of that, doing some more exercise, and so feeling stronger too, and so losing the right kind of weight, and so these things have been really working for me, and trying to limit my excess sugar, which I think I was just having way too much of without really realizing it. So some simple changes for me that haven't been too hard to enact, and honestly, like I have found that with eating less frequently, and I know not producing as much of that high level insulin throughout my day, like Dr. Fung says that's gonna really reduce your hunger, and I found that to be the case. I have been way less hungry all the time than I used to be when I was just eating more frequently and snacking a lot. So my personal experience so far has been kind of bearing out his conclusions and advice pretty well. And so I've dug into his more recent book, and I think these are great. But if you want to watch him in video format, you'll get a lot of the same information and advice just by watching him on different podcasts or his own YouTube videos. So I think he was great. Had a great time with the book and sped through it. A lot of useful wisdom in there if you're interested. All right, this brings us to the clunker section of the month. And I was in between reads. I didn't want to pick up something big, and so I just had a few stories left in this Tailored Realities collection by Brandon Sanderson. So this released late last year, has his big new release for the year that he released at Dragonsteel. I read a few of the stories kind of back then in December, and they were my favorites ever. One in particular really disappointed me. And so I didn't end up reading all of them. I waited a few months for the right time to kind of finish them out. And I did a lot of them by audio, and they're different audio narrators, and I thought they were really good. Like, some of them are by Ray Porter, and then Dion Graham was a new discovery for me, and I realized that he's actually a pretty well-known, famous narrator, and I thought he was great in some of these. So solid audios, but man, when I'm looking at these stories, like, most of them were disappointments. I will say that the two stories that were some of the ones that I think are some of his more prominent non-Cosmere sci-fi short stories that I'd been hearing their names about for years and years, and I'd meant to get to. I thought they were pretty good. So Snapshot and Perfect State. Yeah, those worked for me pretty well. They're kind of longer stories, like, novelettes, and Snapshot was just this high concept sci-fi short story. It's kind of like cop thriller noir style, and I love the twist in there, and I was really engaged reading that. And then Perfect State is kind of like a sci-fantasy thing going on, another high concept with major twists, and with a sci-fi short story. Like, I love, things getting high concept and doing some social commentary, and then, a big twist that recontextualizes everything. Like, I think that format works great in sci-fi short stories. Otherwise, he wrote a really short story for this collection that was new called Brain Dump that I thought was fun and kind of in the mode of kind of a Ray Bradbury, like, satirical, fun sci-fi short story. But man, some of the others in here, extremely forgettable and just miserable reading experiences. I Hate Dragons, that was a short one, but man, I hated that. Dreamer, man, so unimpactful. Probability Approaching Zero was like a microfiction thing that did not work for me, but it was kind of fun reading his commentary where he kind of explained it. And then I skipped Mitosis, which is the Reckoner's short story, which I don't really think he should have included in here. And then there were two very early stories he wrote. One of them worked for me okay. Firstborn, kind of an Ender's Game inspired thing that looked at kind of nature versus nurture with these two brothers. And I thought it was okay. I think it could have used more space to develop. I think it was around 40 pages, but I think it could have used a greater length to really have the impact that he was going for. But it was okay. But then Defending Elysium, another 40-page story. This, in his commentary, he said was one of the earliest things he ever published or ever wrote that he thought was publishable and good enough to be publishable. And so yeah, he has not let some of his earliest stuff see the light of day, but he thought this was the first thing he wrote that was good enough. And I just vehemently disagree with him on that. He should have kept this one in the trunk. I think Defending Elysium was just an atrocious story. And in every way, just wooden characters. I could not kind of get a hold into caring about them for any reason. An almost unintelligible, dense plot and world building. I think this world building ended up becoming like the Skyward world building and series, and so it's kind of like a proto Skyward story, and nothing about this was working for me. So that was miserable. But I need to comment on Moment Zero. So this is what I read first, because it was the big new novella that almost like novel size that he wrote for this, and I knew from going to Dragonsteel a few years ago when he did a reading from it, I knew the premise, and I thought it sounded pretty fun, where it's these cop partners who get separated in time, one in the past, one in the future, and they have to work together to solve this great huge situation of this kind of zombie apocalypse from happening. And like that premise, I love. I had such high hopes that Sando was just going to deliver like an engaging, fun time. And that completely failed to occur for me here. I think the story ended up being so utterly generic in terms of its action and the plotting, predictable, this very basic zombie apocalypse thing going on. I loved the movie Frequency when I was younger, where this father and son have to prevent disaster from occurring across time, and they have this magical way of communicating. And I was so just excited for what Sando could do with this same mechanism, and he just did nothing with it that engaged me at all. There's something like going on with his most recent writing. He's lost a little bit of his writing edge, like compared to even the earlier stories like that Perfect State and Snapshot. There was more grit. there was more creativity involved. They felt less generic. They felt uniquely Sando in ways where only he could have created, those particular mix of world building elements and tying into the plotting and characters that you could still come to care about in a little bit of page time. But none of that was happening in Moment Zero. I think he just completely failed to deliver on this novella. And because of that, I would not recommend getting this collection. You can probably find Perfect State and Snapshot separately for cheaper if you want to see an example of kind of solid sci-fi short stories by Sando. But I would just not recommend this collection, honestly. That was a big disappointment and a big waste. Speaking about another book I would not recommend from a favorite author, which is The Hallowed Hunt by Lois McMaster Bujold. I was on a huge streak with Bujold's novels, loving the 16 Vorkosigan novels, plus a bunch of those novellas. The first two World of the Five Gods books, Curse of Chalion and Paladin of Souls, really liked those. And so I was on quite a long streak with Bujold. And so, I'm not going to be too upset that one was just a complete dud for me. I mean, it's not the longest book in the world. And she has provided me with so many rich experiences. I'm not going to complain too much about how this book just failed to deliver anything for me. Her writing is a little bit more formal here, I think on purpose, mimicking more of like an older literary style, like 19th century or British novels or something. But there's not a lot of her vivid like character voice. It's a lot of exposition, just where characters are having these long, protracted conversations about like the history and lore. We're in a different location too from Chalion, and that doesn't help. It's like a very generic like Europe, Middle Ages, like Central Europe setting, and I'm not exactly sure why she decided to take the series in this direction, but I know she was planning to do like 5 novels for each of the 5 gods, but then she stopped after this one. This one is going to be easy to skip. Like, it takes place in a completely separate country from the others, way earlier in time. It has a pretty disconnected plot from anything else, I think, in the series. And so, unless you're a completionist like me, I wanted to read everything she's ever written because she's just one of my favorite authors, and so I want to see it all. Unless you're a completionist like that, you should definitely skip this one. I just found it so slow. I could not get into the POV character, which was such a huge difference from every other POV character I've read from Bujold. POV character was just so bland and so indistinct of a personality, and the romance of the heart of this was so superficial. That's like a big part of the whole book too. I actually did like the climax. There was a meaningful and impactful climactic sequence, but man, it took me so long. I was reading this one just a chapter at a time and was losing focus reading it. I could not stay with it. And so this was just an utter struggle. So I would not recommend The Hallowed Hunt, but certainly the other novels in World of the Five Gods and Vorkosigan would recommend wholeheartly. But it would be one I would just say to skip. So what will I be reading in June? I'm a mood reader, so I definitely want to just let my mood take me where it will. But I will definitely be continuing, at the very least, the Last King of Ostenart series with Into the Narrow Dark. And we're down to the last 2 novels in that series, although I know Tad's working on more in the world, so it's not all there is going to be, I think, in this world. But this book series is shaping up to have an absolutely explosive kind of ending with these last 2 books, so I cannot wait to get into this. I think I'm going to start it next because I'm just in the flow with having just finished Brothers of the Wind, so excited about that. And otherwise, I'm going to continue in that Hunger Code book, and I might try a new fantasy standalone. I just got this because I've been seeing rave reviews left and right for The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. So I'm very intrigued. Might be one I try to pick up soon. With these new releases, if I don't get to them immediately when there's a lot of buzz, like I just lose motivation to pick them up. So I want to try to get to that one soon. So that one is one I might try in June. But that was my May, and I gotta figure out a book of the month here. I mean, I know it's not going to be the Hallowed Hunt or Tailored Realities. And Brothers of the Wind was solid. Outlaw was a solid novella. But there is no doubt my book of the month is A Parade of Horribles by Matt Dinniman. The one I read twice, right in a row. And just can't wait to reread even just exactly what I was hoping for as the next volume in one of my most favorite, cherished series. So, yeah, easy book of the month. And yeah, that was my reading month. Let me know what you've been reading, what you thought of any of these books, if you've gotten into those. And yeah, I'll catch you later.